This
Yeah.
conference will now be recorded.
Okay. So, welcome all the attendees to this the third webinar in our series for the young minds. The topic for today is right time to hire and business scalability. And it'll be taken by our very own Khuzema Siam of Chennai. I'll ask Alifia to introduce Khuzema.
Good evening, everyone. So today, this is the brief of our speaker today. Khuzema is an entrepreneur from Chennai, India. His passion towards using technology as enabler to build better businesses led him to start Siam Computings. He works with companies from across the world and has helped build technology products for both startups and enterprises alike. Nothing pleases him more than a solution that's well designed and crafted with the end users in the mind. Siam Computing is a global technology service company with over 60 engineers. They have worked with clients ranging from Four Seasons hotels, Firestone Tires, and locally with clients such as Spy Cinema, Vasant TV, and Chettinad Vidyashram. They have helped startups scale from $0 to $1 million in revenue and have been their trusted partners in their growth story. In 2015, they started building Hisabing with a mission to bring technology to the grassroots small and medium businesses of India. They also helped co-found Startups Club, a premium destination for early stage startup. The motto of their very organization being engineering possibilities. Their client have come to them looking for cutting edge technology solution and scalable implementations. With core expertise in product development, they bring the whole gamut of experience to the table. From design thinking to product design to engineer and final develop. They have been into the market for a long time. We welcome you, Khuzema sir, today for the today's session. Hope it is insightful for everyone. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, MSB team and the incubation team for inviting me. What I'm hoping to do over the next 30-40 minutes is sort of share my thoughts on hiring, also share the journey that we have been through, and feel free to, we have the chat window. Feel free to ask questions, stop, interrupt at any point. And let this be a dialogue more than a one-way discourse, right? So I'm no expert on this, and let this be a dialogue. Anyway, having said that, can you guys see my screen?
Alifia, make Khuzema the presenter, please.
Done.
Yeah. And we can switch off our camera so everybody can see Khuzema clearly. Oh, Hussein, you can switch off your camera as well.
Okay, are you able to see my screen now? Hiring and scaling.
No.
Okay. I think you need to make me the presenter again. I don't see the option.
Yeah, Alifia, please make Khuzema the presenter. Yeah, now you are. Now.
Yeah. Okay, I see it. All right, I hope now you can see my screen.
Yes.
All right, so let's start with this, right? First, I want to sort of have a massive shout out to all of you guys. It's a very popular saying, like a boss, but I think that in this group, there are a lot of people who are their own bosses and have been leading their own businesses. And it's a fairly difficult thing to do. So a big, massive shout out to you guys, and pat on the back for you guys for being a boss and leading your teams. Right. So I'm going to jump into the topic directly as to, from what I've understood, that most of the audience we have today is either college kids or people who have small businesses, less than 10 people. So the first question really is to understand why hire, right? And I think I want to start off with a the story of Bill Gates, and maybe you can think about that a little bit. So this is back in the 90s when Bill Gates has become really rich, and he has been crowned the richest person in the world, and he has been invited for this interview, where this lady, the woman who's taking his interview, is determined to sort of show how greedy he is. So she asks him a question, which goes on to be like, so Bill, you're walking down the road, and you see a couple of dollars, $100 notes on the ground. What do you do? So she was fully expecting him to be like, show the greedy side of him. And Bill Gates, in a very cocky manner, replies saying, "I will not pick it up." And then again, she's like, "Is this because you are very rich and you're very arrogant?" And he says, "Basically, I earn $6,000 a minute, right? And the amount of time I spend to bend down and pick up the $200 notes, I actually end up losing more money than I make, right?" And essentially, this is the first question that you have to sort of ask yourself, which is, what is the value of your time, and what are the things that you should be dedicating your energies towards in your business, and what are the things that you should be able to find other people and delegate to them, right? So I think it's worthwhile to make an inventory of lists of things that happen in your organization, and break it down and find where do you bring the most amount of value to your business, and how you can take it forward. So that's the first sort of thought process. But all my life, I've heard this phrase, "Manas upar bharosa na hai," right? So a little bit of my background: my dad has his own hardware business. My mom has a boutique, right? And even now, when the whole lockdown thing started, and we said that this entire year we have declared work from home, my dad was like, "Huh, but घरे से थोड़ी कोई काम करे," right? And I think this is a very essential element that we have to sort of think about first, right? That if you're coming from a perspective and a point that you cannot trust your people to do what they have to do, then it's a dangerous point to begin with. Of course, you need to have systems and you need to have processes, but you need to start from a place of trust, right? And we'll talk about it a little bit more in terms of how you delegate and all those things. But truly, the quote that really changed it for me was this thing that I read, which was this guy, Andrew Carnegie. He's one of the biggest industrialists of America. In current day value, he has about $500 billion of worth, which is about 3.5 lakh crore rupees, if you want to think about it in Indian rupee terms. And this is so it, when he was buried, this is what was on his epitaph. Epitaph is his tombstone, where it says, "Here lies a man who was wise enough to bring into his service men who knew more than him." Right? And I when I read this, is when the whole thing changed for me. This and another thing somebody else told me. So back in 2014, when I started my business, I was the only developer, and I used to do freelance projects, and I used to really work hard. But even then, after working hard, all of us know sometimes like there's no progress happening, right? So on my first trip to the US, I was sitting down and I was talking to my client, and she was like, "Jose, how are you doing? It's so it's so amazing that at such a young age you're doing this and all that." And I shared with her that even though we were doing these projects, I was really not growing. I was really at that level. And I remember that she made this phrase, which is, "Because you're working in your business and not on your business," right? And I think a lot of us sort of end up making that mistake, which is that we want to be the superhero of our organization, that we want to be able to do all the things ourselves. And again, going back to that whole trust deficit that we have, that we don't believe that anybody else can do this better, right? So when I read this quote, this is where the whole perspective changed, that maybe there are people who know um, things better than I, and they can do things better than I can, and I need to find a way to make that change happen. And it was a scary time. So, if our typical projects were 30, 40, 50,000 rupees, and the first project manager that I wanted to hire was asking a salary, initial starting salary of 45,000 rupees, right? And the trust, not the trust of wanting to delegate, but the trust that, hey, will this work out? It's a big investment in human capital. That is this something that is going to benefit me in the long run? Was a very difficult decision to make, right? And keeping this quote in mind is when we started uh, working on the business, and I stopped working in the business. So there's a second misconception also, right? That, and this is something that a lot of people, I've heard my dad say, my granddad say, etc. That Manas ne Raksu and Abudu Kesu, if we tell him everything, tell our secrets, Kasi leije de, Kasi veche de, but he in ek days could not business start kari dese, right? And this used to really stump me, which is this a reality, right? And if this is, because I remember, and I used to be in my dad's shop, even when I started my business, my dad would not let me reveal to my team how much the value of this project was, because then they'll be like, or where these customers are coming from, because they'll be like, if they understand all of these things, they're going to go and start their own thing. And I used to find that really restricting. I used to find that mindset very very constraining in a way. And again, this is a philosophy that we adopted much later, and we've seen this happen again and again, right? That nothing can stop an idea whose time has come. That if this person, if this person has that fire, if that person has that will to do what they have to do, they're going to find a way to do it, whether you tell them or not. You not sharing one or two details is in fact actually hurting your business, because you're always playing the game of restricting, hiding, not telling the full story, and truly you've never fully had your team with you. You've always been sort of having them as instruments of your work rather than being part of your team. One of the examples that a lot of my friends who play cricket also bring to the table is, in a cricket team, you can't be everything. You can't be the wicket keeper, bowler, batsman, right? So you need to be able to find a way to build your team. So anyway, what if he learns and grows, start the business? So let's do a little bit of a quiz. Can you identify who this guy is? He used to work at Yahoo. He pitched his idea to Yahoo, and they didn't pick it. And Yahoo is infamous for this, right? So there are so many product ideas people had come and pitched to Yahoo, and they never really picked it. So he pitched to Yahoo, they rejected it. He quit his job, and Facebook was up and coming at that time. So he went and pitched this idea to Facebook. Not idea. He went and applied for a job at Facebook, saying that he can do these things, and he was rejected. And then he tried again after 6 months, and he was rejected again. And then he got very frustrated, and he said he took a leap of faith and he built the product himself, right? And about 8 years later, the story is that he went and sold a product that he built to Facebook for $19 billion. And absolutely, right? So a lot of people, I can see, are in the group saying that this is WhatsApp and it is Actin. But imagine this, right? Like, imagine in your own businesses, if you have these people, and imagine if this guy had been in Facebook and had built this product. There's so many stories. I can give you a counter story that Orkut, I don't know how many of you remember Orkut that was there. Orkut was a product which was owned by Google, but it was built in a joint ownership by one of the employees of Google, because they had this 20% free time idea, right? So that is another question that we have to think about, which is, what if he stays and grows your business, right? There is one thing, one aspect that we think about, which is, what if he learns and leaves But what if he stays and uses that fire that he has to grow your own business? One of the, and your team really is your sort of safe ecosystem, right? One of the, by 2016, 2017, I had gone through this process that, I need to be able to share everything with my team. And it helped a lot, because by 2017 we are going through a dip in our business, where a lot of the projects that we had won, payments didn't come through. And I think a lot of us can, especially people in hardware business, can maybe relate to that. When payments don't come through, you're going through hell and fire. So I remember it was one night in Ramzan. I was, after Biori Namaz, I came back, and I went to office, and there was my colleague Randy sitting in office. He was doing a late night deployment, and then I go to him. He sees that I'm low and dejected, and the it's the first time that I had experienced that my teammate. All along we feel that we, as employers and bosses, we need to um, you know encourage and we need to motivate our team. But for the first time, I went there and he sat me down and he was like, because when I joined the company, our trajectory was like this, right? We were going up from 2014 to 2017. But this year, I see that our trajectory is slowly going down. What can I do to help you, right? And that statement really changed a lot inside me. First, it told me that this is not just for me, it is also for my team, that I need to fight and bring this back to survival. But that vote of confidence that we can do this really changed it. And right now, Randy handles one of our largest clients, and that motivation that we had really changed the whole thing. So, moving on, these are the four components that I have broken it down into as to how you can look to scale your business. One is how to delegate. Second is building a culture for your organization. Third is invest in learning. And fourth is how do you empower. There's a question from Hussein. And what is your tried and tested vetting process for hiring people? Can we do it in the end, just so that we can finish and have the flow? All right. So competence to scale. First, delegation, how not to, right? Like, I think a lot of us are used to, even me when I began, are used to micromanaging, right? Like, we need to know at every step of the way if they're doing the right thing. And I found this image on the internet which I thought was very apt and funny, that this is literally how a lot of bosses want to work with them. That every step of the way they want to know, okay, did you go to the market? Did you ask four shops? What are the name of the four shops that you asked, etc., etc., right? But one of the things that we have really tried to inculcate in the organization is delegating responsibility and not a task, right? And I think at this point, it's also important to sort of dial back and think about how you see your organization. Right? So one of the things that we did in Siam Computing starting 2018 was we adopted what we internally call a collective goal, and a lot of people outside call it objectives and key results. But what we did in 2018 was we took a day off for ourselves, starting of the year, and we collectively went together. We went to a resort. We spent the morning talking about different things, relaxing. But post lunch, we all came back together, and I led that session by asking a set of questions, right? And these frameworks I can share with you guys in the end. But these questions started with, why is this job important to you? Why is being successful in this job important to you? How does this make you feel if you are successful? How does it make people who you love, your family, feel if you are successful? Then we got down to the meat of it, right? We were like, at the end of this year and at the end of 2 years, what is the money goal? What is an ambition that you want to set for yourself, right? And what do you think that you are missing right now in order to be able to deserve that compensation? So if there are people who are getting 50,000 rupees, they said, I want to earn 3 lakh rupees. So the question was, what do you want to earn and what is preventing you from earning these things? What do you need? What do you think you need to learn? And what is preventing you from learning these things? Right? So this was the framework, and we gave these questions to everybody. First, everybody was a little bit stunned, right? Because nobody in their life has ever asked as to what do you want to earn and how can I make that happen. So at the end of like 30-40 minutes, we finished that. I took all the papers, and then together we collectively formed an organizational goal, right? So we said that, okay, if you want to be earning X amount of money per month, and collectively all of us are here, which means our organization's goal need to be, let's say, 2 crore rupees or 10 crore rupees in annual revenue. So what happened because of that is that there was an immediate buy-in, right? That this goal that this organization is setting is not Kuze's goal or it's Siam Computing's goal. It's a goal for all of us together, right? And there was an immediate buying, and then there was an immediate um, path that, if this goal is met, my personal ambition is met, and for me to meet my personal ambition, um, these are the things that I need to learn and achieve so that this goal can be met, right? And that's how we have been growing year on year, and making it a collective thing. And this philosophy I'll talk about a little bit later also. So it really comes down to, I don't know how many of you have seen Rick and Morty. This images from that. It really comes down to that, right? Instead of telling a soldier or telling a watchman, shoot anybody who comes, and that's a task that you have given them, right? If anybody trespasses here, that's a one single dimensional task that you have given, versus, hey, keep me safe. Keeping me safe is your responsibility. Now that can involve making sure to switch off the gas. It can involve having proper um, barricades done. It can involve shooting somebody, all of those things, right? And delegating a responsibility is much more powerful than just delegating a particular task. And how do you change your team's mindset towards taking up a responsibility? Also on this thought, there is an actual framework called objectives and key results. It's something that if you guys are interested, you should look at, which is how do you define an objective for your team and what are the key results they need to do to be able to achieve that objective. And on a separate forum, maybe we can just have a discussion around that, and I can share how we do it inside Siam Computing. The other important thing is, I think a lot of us don't actively think about it in our business, but it's a very omnipresent thing, right? If you look at culture, it is something that is there in any organization. It is there in our religion, for example. It is there in our nation. There is a culture which is imbibed into us. And if you're asking what is culture, culture is basically what you do when no one is watching, right? Or what your team does. You can have a 150-page employee handbook which tells exactly what they're supposed to do, but trust me, there will still be things um, that you cannot define, right? And that is where your culture will be stepping in to give sort of an internal barometer to your team and to yourselves as to what to do when things are not defined. So for example, we have a culture in our religion that being on time to the mosque, right? And as an organization, if I used to have this problem, which I always wanted my company to start at 9:30, right? But if it's something that I'm only telling, and I myself was coming in at 10:30, that was never going to happen, right? Because culture is also what you do is who you are, right? So you have to lead by example and set that culture in your company. I'll share a few culture that we have in Siam, and it's literal as well as metaphorical. One of the things that we really try to do is leaders eat last, and there is a great book also on this. Something that we had a new joinee. She was a manager, right? And this is an story of how that happened. Um, she was a manager, and we typically have these celebrations, Eid celebration, birthday celebration, etc. And somebody orders a big bucket of biryani. So she was new, and she took a plate and she went and stood in the line, and she saw that none of the other managers, her peers, are in the line, right? And she was wondering why. And all her teammates are looking at her in a funny way. And it, in a literal way, we used to say that leaders eat last. That after everybody's eaten is when we will eat, right? But it also tells, it's a very symbolic gesture to your team, where you know that you have their back. Okay. It also is a very symbolic gesture to your team, where all the credit that comes, right, is not yours. If something great happens in Siam, I'll be the first one to say it was Randy or Elvin or Chid or whoever it is. But if something goes wrong, the buck stops with me. If you come in, if we ever do a project, and if something went wrong, God forbid, I will be the one who will apologize to you. It will not be Chid, right? So it's an ingrained culture, and it brings an immense sense of responsibility when they know that um, my leader has my back, right? It's like the wolf pack, where the leader really always walks at the end. And I don't know how many of you know this, but if you look at a wolf pack, the leader walks at the end, having the back of the pack, and the people who are most vulnerable will lead the pack, and that's how they will walk, right? So that's one of the cultures of Siam, which is leaders eat last. Second culture we have, which when we introduced it, got me a lot of flack and a lot of hate, which is 5 minutes early is still 10 minutes late. Which is, if there's a meeting at 10 o'clock, and if you show up at 9:55, you're still 10 minutes late. You were expected to be in that meeting, especially if it's a client meeting. You are expected to be in that meeting at 9:45. Be there, prepare yourself, and be ready to show. And what does this tell? All of these little quips have a lot of deeper messaging when you really embody it and you exercise it. What it really, when we introduced this, was that everybody started respecting time, right? Everybody also started understanding the value of being prepared. That it is essential as an organization that whenever in whatever we do, we will want to show up prepared, right? And it changed the whole paradigm of how we approach our daily lives, um, how we approach our clients, how we approach things personally, right? So a lot of us um, inculcated this. In fact, this is not something that we did. There's a very famous football team in the US who introduced this in there, and he had a rule that everybody who is late will have to pay $100 a minute. And his definition of late was this, which is 5 minutes early, still 10 minutes late. The other one, which is fairly obvious, is one for all for one. If you're doing something, if you're going out somewhere, all of us do it together. If somebody is not available, then it's not something that we do. Again, lots of stories, lots of examples, but this is a way in which we really try to show that we are a team. The fourth one is show don't tell, which is instead of telling me, hey, the first, let's say you come and work at Siam Computing, right? And you don't know how to set up a Zoom meeting. The rule for everybody, not just leadership, the rule for everybody is show don't tell. If I don't know something, come and show it to me first time. Just don't just like yell and say that this is how you do it. And again, there's a lot of inner meanings, we try to sort of by showing something to somebody, you are practicing yourself. This really goes down into engineering level, where when we say show don't tell, it's a refresher course for them on, let's say, Python. It's got deeper, lots of deeper results when we sort of adopt this. Final one that we have is be the best version you can be, and something that we really try to invest in as leadership, in terms of money we spend for learning and development, and allowing people to do what they want to and what they can. Which really takes, this is a nice segue to talk about investing in learning. This is the third dimension that we think about in terms of if you have to scale. Now, there are three areas when we think about learning. There are three areas in which we really sort of define ourselves. First is you know this, you know what you know, right? And it's very important that you are aware of the skills that you possess and are not arrogant but are confident about it, right? So if you know how to make an omelette, right, you should be able to confidently say that this is what I know. So that's the first level, right? The second one is also very important, which is you should know what you don't know. I don't know how to fly a plane, and I will not claim to do so, right? So it is important that you are aware of it. But the third one is where the real magic happens, which is you don't even know what you don't know. For example, you don't even know what are the rules of what is the seventh rule of aerodynamics you don't even know what is the seventh rule of aerodynamics. You don't even know that such 7 rules exist, right? So you don't even know that 7 rules of aerodynamics is ABCD. Why? So let's start from the back, right? Which is, let's say you picked up something, you saw something, or you want to become a leader in an aspect of your business, which is, let's say, marketing. Now you don't even know what are the elements of marketing that are involved, right? Digital marketing, what is inbound marketing, what is backlinking, etc. There's a whole universe out there. So you start from there, and when you start from you don't know what you don't know, but you want to get better at a concept, let's say at marketing. This is what you use, right? There's 3 simple ways to learn: people, resources, and experiences. Now, if I want to learn something about marketing, I will simply Google or go to Twitter or whatever resources I can find and follow that. Find people who are good or great in marketing, right? And I will follow them. And whatever they share, whatever they read, whatever they're talking about, I will read, and then I'll come to phase 2 over here, which is what you don't know now. For example, if um, Seth Godin talks to me about the purple cow. Now, this is a new phrase and terminology that I've read today. Now, when the second stage of this whole learning is a very important stage. Is a stage where you have to be really honest to yourself. Now, imagine you are sitting in a group, right, and somebody shares something, and you've never heard this phrase before. Now you have 2 choices here. You can nod your head and pretend and say that, yeah, I know what you're talking about, while you have no idea what that person is saying. Or you could be honest to yourself and say, hey, I don't know what this is, but I'm willing to learn, right? So this phase 2, which is you know what you don't know and are willing to learn, will eventually take you to phase 1, which is now you know what you know, that I know who Seth Godin is, what marketing is about, and what Purple Cow is about, and I can claim that I also understand what word of mouth marketing is, right? So going back to invest in learning, there are 3 simple ways. As I said, follow people who you think have any sort of authority on a particular topic. Once you find things that you didn't know about and that you want to learn, find resources. There are plenty of resources, and this whole COVID scenario has opened up so many avenues of learning, right? So you have Udemy, you have YouTube, There's so many books available online. Find resources that will help you understand what you didn't know. And third is something that we also sort of open up, which is experiences, right? Like go for a conference, go work somewhere, take up an internship, experience that particular industry or that particular um, line of work, and invest yourself in that. And again, in Siam, this is something that we really invest in and give our people a liberty. We have budgets for them to go attend a conference every quarter, that if they want to go experience a particular conference and come back and share it with us. In terms of resources, we have a library in our office. We are signed up on a lot of online courses. Of course, people is the most amazing free resource that's available, right? Like you can go find anybody on Twitter, LinkedIn, and say that I want to learn from you. So this is a framework for learning, and I hope this helps. Finally, it's also very important, going back to the first ever story that we talked about, which is of WhatsApp. It's also very important to empower people, right? Of course, you can be a great leader and you're delegating tasks and all that, but I think real true scale happens when you're able to empower people to find their true potential using your business or your organization as a medium to achieve that. And there's a very famous saying, which is a rising tide lifts everybody, right? And that's the medium from which we operate, that we want to find ways to empower people. So if you remember, I said that 2018 we went and did this goal setting session, and we we created a collective organizational goal from an individual goal. And in that meeting, we had a guy, his name was Elvin, right? And interestingly enough, his goal was to become a CEO and earn 2 lakh rupees a month, right? And I said, fantastic. Here is a division of ours, which builds websites, and I think there's a great amount of potential. Do you want to take it up, right? And since 2019, the journey began. 1 year he went through hell and fire under me, saying you really need to learn how to become a leader, a CEO. Trust me, he's still learning. But as of Jan 2020, he's the CEO of his own company. It's a company along with Siam Computing, but he's the CEO of WP Flight. And if I can share this, it's one of the only companies that has really thrived during the whole COVID scenario for us. There is one of the divisions that's really done well. So I think there's great amounts of power. It takes a lot of courage to do it, but I think there's a great amount of power in having the mindset to empower your people. And in our organization, that's how we operate, and I think that's how most large corporates operate, which is each division head in our company is aware of everything, all their expenses, their team salaries, how much salary I take, everything is out in the open. And they're in charge of their own P&L, right? So their own profit and loss as a team, as a division, they're in charge of. And it's very liberating to me, of course, that I don't have to worry and focus about a lot of things. I've delegated a responsibility that being profitable in this division is your headache now. And from there comes a lot of liberty for me, but also a lot of empowerment to the individuals who are handling it. So that's something that we try to do, which is empower people, and I think it's really worthwhile to think about it. Recently, I was reading about it, that Reliance, I think through the whole lockdown, I had a screenshot for you guys. Yeah. Through the lockdown, Reliance has made $13 billion, but can anybody tell me who's the guy who is really behind it? Anybody in the chat? So you should go read about this guy called Manoj Modi. He is truly the brains behind Reliance, and the amount of power and amount of strategy that he brings. Mukesh Ambani has just been an enabler to the brilliance of Manoj Modi, which goes back to the first quote that I said, right, of Carnegie, which is, I want to find a way to hire people who are cleverer than me. Right? So that's another example that I want to share of empowering. So I think I've kept it in wanting to keep it short. I've kept the whole presentation for about 30 minutes. So a lot of the frameworks and resources that are there, we have them. If you want to see them, just either follow me on LinkedIn or Facebook, and I'll share these things with you. I'll share how we created a culture document, how we Ambani is, he does have both Manoj and Narendra Modi. That's a good one. But yeah, coming back to this, we will share all the different frameworks and templates that we use for, let's say, creating a job description, a culture document, how the framework of asking the right questions to your team, the OKR, objectives and key results framework, etc. Just ping me on Facebook and resources. Sorry, Facebook and LinkedIn. I'll share these with you. That's it from my end. I hope it was useful to you guys. I claim to be no world's best boss. I don't know if you guys have seen Office. Michael Scott gives himself this mug saying world's best boss. So that's why I put it here. So yeah, that's it from my end. Happy to take some questions now.
Hussein, you can take over for the question answers. Hussein? Hussein? Hello.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Hi, Khuzema. Hello.
Okay,
Yes,
Mustan sir, go on.
Yep. So I guess we could go ahead with the first question that we had got, which is, what is your tried and tested vetting process of hiring people? Hello, Khuzema.
Hello, Khuzema, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, there was one question asked by Hussein M. What is
Yeah.
your tried and tested vetting process of hiring people?
Okay, tried and testing process for hiring people. So it starts with what we call, it's something that we first create together, and we call it key responsibilities, which is when you want to hire a person, what are the key responsibilities that you want this person to handle, right? So a lot of people call it different things, job description, etc. But we call it key responsibilities. And it's very important to have this because a lot of the times, I had another meme that I wanted to share. A lot of the times when we finally want to hire somebody, this is how we think about it. Right? We're always looking for this kind of a resource, which is, if you hire me, all your dreams will come true. But it's absolutely not true. You have to make a lot of sacrifices early on in being able to groom that person in, and then you can see the results. But coming back to your question, have a key responsibilities area document. We also do something called attributes document, which is what are the kind of attributes we want this person to have. We want him to be energetic. Do we want him to be curious? And then finally, we also evaluate somebody from their culture fit perspective. That is this person the right fit for the culture? We take that, we give it to our HR team. Platforms that we typically use include Naukri and LinkedIn. But in our field, what we don't do is we don't hire somebody just basis of their interview and their resume. We make sure that everybody who's hiring, who comes on board, does code or does create something. So if you are a designer, we will ask you to give you a problem statement and tell you to create something. If you're a developer, we ask you to code. If you're a business analyst, we'll give you a problem statement and ask you to document it. And then through that process is when we will bring somebody in. And then we have a whole hand-holding process once they're in, right? Hand-holding in terms of getting them familiarized with the culture of the organization, with the way we work, with what is expected of them, what things they need to learn. Uh, there is something that we also do, which is called the yo-yo test. How many of you are aware of it? It's very popular in cricket. So I think about 3 or 4 years back, Indian cricket team introduced something called the yo-yo test, where they had to do a particular fitness test, and only if you pass that fitness test, you are eligible for selection. So that's something that we created internally as well, which is what is our minimum barometer for you to do code or do design, above which we will be able to hire you. So I don't know if that answers.
Yeah, Khuzema, hi, this is Yusuf. I had this particular question. You said
Yeah.
that delegate responsibility and not delegate task.
Yeah.
Assume that you have a key person as an employee. He leaves
Assume I
you
have
in
one
a murky situation.
key
Yeah,
person.
you have a key man. Key person as an employee. You
Yeah.
entrust a lot of responsibility, and he leaves you in a murky situation. He leaves as soon as not following the procedure of notice. So what happens in such situations? Like, have you experienced such before in your organization? How did you deal? And personally, it has happened to me, Khuzema. So please help me out. Like, if a key person leaves in a murky situation, like not fulfilling his responsibility. So what do you do? Have you gone through this?
Yeah. In fact, I was just telling one of my friends this morning about how one of our key sales guy had left overnight, right? And I was very upset with the whole experience. It was a person, somebody who was very close to me, both professionally and personally. He was a very good friend, and he left because for whatever reason, right? But what I've found is if you have your systems in place, this is where systems come into key focus, which is if you have a system where things that he did were documented, that learnings that he did, or if he's a sales guy, if his contacts were in a particular place, you had your CRM updated, and you had a way of your system being the backbone of whatever he was doing, it is really not that bad. You will survive and you will move on. But if you don't have these systems and you basically everything is in your mind and you have this unnatural reliance on this person because it's in his mind, then it becomes really dangerous. Answering your question directly, which is if somebody leaves, and I've seen more often than not that it'll be like a 1 or 2 month phase where it is sorry, it'll be 1 or 2 months where it'll be tough, where you have to really get back to hiring and all that. But having a system in place where all of this is sort of documented and kept will really help you sail through.
Okay, Khuzema, we have one question here from one of the participant, Adam Dalal.
Yeah.
During this COVID-19, we have seen that many IT companies have started working from home. So do you think that they can continue this all around the year? And also they require lots and lots of infrastructure.
Yeah. So
So do you think
okay.
that these organizations can take a cut down in spaces and also cut down on people who can work from home and are not required to be physically present in the office?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it is happening. I already said that in our company we've already declared, being whatever, however small that we are, we've already declared that this entire year we will not expect people to come to office. And a lot of the large organizations have already done it. Twitter said that you don't have to come indefinitely, right? That you don't have to come to organization at all. Facebook said till end of this year. Google said next 2 years you don't need to come back to work. And even Indian companies like TCS, the CEO of TCS came out and said that by 2022 they want to be 75% working from home. So I think this COVID situation has really brought in a tectonic shift in the way we think about what is needed. And if you actually go back and look at a lot of the articles, especially in the IT sector, a lot of managers have confirmed, which was something that was already known, that working from home actually increases productivity, right? And that people are comfortable and are able to work at uh, their own manner, and are able to be more productive. Um, so that's already happening. TCS, in fact, said that instead of having large, uh, um, working areas like Sirasiri, etc., they want to create smaller satellite offices in smaller towns like Coimbatore or Madurai, etc., where people, if they need, can go to these centers. And I'll come to your question, Taya Madhurwala. So that is another thing, right? That is happening in the whole IT space. But can work from home have disadvantages for other? Yes. So there is Adam Dara, if you send me a hi on Facebook, I'll send you a very amazing article about all the impact working from home is going to have on all the ancillary industries. It's a great article, very detailed, a lot of numbers on it. So not just taxi services, food services, real estate for that matter, both commercial as well as residential real estate, massive amounts of impact to them. Food courts. There were so many ancillary industries that were running on an IT company being there, and there is call for a massive impact on all of that.
But Khuzema, I would like to interfere here. I recently saw this Casa Grande ad where they are showing you the houses on your screen on your laptop. They have actually what are the projects going on at the moment. What they have done is they have taken a video of the demo houses and they are showing you everything online now, so you can
Yeah.
make a purchase right away from it. So I think that's
Yeah.
a very good initiative they have done, rather than bringing people to the site and showing the demo house. They are doing it online now. So
For sure, but
even
then the question,
a technical shift over there.
absolutely. But the question here is that why do I even need to be in Chennai? Okay, if there is a Casa Grande wherever in OMR, why a lot of people have actually gone back to their hometowns, right? And the cost of living is cheaper in Madurai. They are living in their own home, so they don't have to pay rent. They're living with their families. Our own employees, right, are happy that they're working from home because
Staying
they
in the
save
game.
more money. Then they would say here pay 15,000-20,000 rupees rent, food costs, etc. All of that are savings for them. Right? So the whole question has come up as to why do we even need to buy a house in OMR anymore, and that's why the prices are coming down. There was a very interesting question on
Khuzema,
blue. Yeah.
if I can just interrupt, there's one live question for you. I'll just unmute
Yeah.
the attendee. 1 second. Yeah, Mustafa, you can ask your question, Mustafa. Mustafa? Mustafa, you can unmute and ask your question.
Khuzema, can you hear me?
Yeah.
See, I was going through your this thing incubation thing. I think it is a very good initiative, and you were talking about working from home, right? But since we are into this trading concept where we deal in buying and selling of goods, in your line of work, okay, it is acceptable because you are not dealing in any materials trading kind of thing, so you can work from home. How do traders like us or people who have aspirations in doing trading business, how do we work from home? This is my question to you.
I don't know if I'm fully qualified for that question because, but I mean, just from what I've heard and what I've seen, there are lots of these WhatsApp groups where people have, being Indian businesses and being Bori businesses that we are, that didn't matter that you are a pipe supplier or you are a sheet supplier. Now everybody has become a safety supplier, right? Of course, the competition goes up, but I think there is a lot of value. There are two things I want to say right now, right? Of course, there's a lot of value in figuring out what is needed um, for in the market and how you can facilitate that and through WhatsApp groups, etc. But the way that I would think about it, and I've been telling this to a lot of friends, is think of this as a 6-month vacation or 9-month vacation that was given to you to really, I mean, I'm going on a controversial topic here, but to really go and assess your business. Okay. If you look at our businesses, a lot of us are doing very similar things, and there is a lot of competition. And I don't think we have spent enough time thinking about what should be done on our businesses because we have always been in our business, always been in the hustle of yes, mal puchanas, etc., etc. But I think this becomes a very interesting opportunity for you to sit back and spend active time thinking about on your business, so what you can improve on. That when it opens up, these are the different lines, or these are different ways in which I will improve my product or service. If there's no real way for you to be working from home, in my opinion, working does not necessarily have to be just operations, right? There are a lot of elements to operations. Right now, could be R&D.
Okay, so we'll take the next question by Hussein Bhagat. How do you
Yeah.
hire the people and not be wrong in your selection of the candidates, as many people though have the technical skills but sometimes they lack the communication skill or aren't a team player?
1 second. There was a question before that on blue collar hiring.
Tahir Madara.
Yeah. We're into manufacturing and have a large number of laborers, so we have people handling each department. So how can we boost their morale and scale up? I think it's a great question, Tahir bhai. If you again ping me, I'll connect you to an HR and they'll share the case study of what they did, SPI cinemas, what they did with their 1,000 people blue collar job, right? There's a lot of initiatives and there's a lot of research they've done around empowering them. For example, one thing that they would do is every 3 months they would do a lunch with the CEO, right, for best performers to come back, and then they will actually have a red carpet, and it will be a 30,000 rupees event, but they'll make that person feel like they're on top of the world, right? They'll bring their family, they'll tell them to bring their family, etc., and come down and really motivate them. There are lots of things that people do in the blue collar industry. You should also look at the Sarvana Bhavan business model on blue collar employee. Again, if you ping me, I'll send you some of these articles. What he did was truly remarkable. He used to go to these villages, and he would hire the person. For example, it's a Murgesh, but he would send the salary to their parents. And the parent, he will not tell Murgesh anything, why did you come late, why did you not come to work, etc. Everything that he has, our parents have the best control over us, right? So he will tell everything to the mother of Murgesh, etc. And then there are other things that he was doing. When Murgesh, for example, gets married, he will make sure that he makes a big gesture in the village, so it becomes an instant attraction to other people in the village that, oh, if you go work at Sarana Bhavan, you can get when you get married, you will get a bike. It was a 20,000-30,000 rupees investment from a bike perspective, which was very important to that person. But from a output perspective, from the productivity perspective, or if you hired a consultancy and gave the 20,000 rupees to hire somebody, was much lesser. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I can send you a lot of case studies which are very interesting around the blue collar segment.
Okay, I would want Hussein Bhagat to come online and ask the question himself directly to you. Hussein Bhagat, please unmute yourself and turn on your camera. Hussain Bhagat.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so um, I had a question.
Please.
Okay, can you see me?
No.
I can't see you. I'm sorry.
You can just go
It's
ahead
okay.
with your question.
Okay. So, how do you hire the right mix of people and not be wrong in your selection of the candidates? Like many people have technical skills, but they lack in communication skills or aren't much of a team player.
It's a good question. The first thing I would say is I don't think anybody in this world can say that they've never hired the wrong person. You will end up once in a while hiring the wrong person who is not a fit. And I think a lot of people have said this, that we hire fast and fire slow. That if somebody is there, then we just keep them, "Okay, kaam chalao, unhe adjust and all that stuff." But it needs to be the other way, which is hire slow and fire fast. Which is, if you feel like it's not happening, you do what you have to do to make it less miserable for yourselves and for that person. So that's that. But from our processes perspective, from a communication, they go through multiple rounds of interview. As I said, we have something called an attribute document, which I'll share with you, where we have attributes where we seek to look out for. That is this person energetic? Is this person um, you know what is it, curious, etc. And we try to ask different types of questions, right? So for one of the questions that I will always ask in my interviews is, what are your passions outside of work? Which is, what do you want to do outside of work? What do you like to do outside of work? Um, and that gives a lot of insight to a person's personality, right? For example, if you are the captain of your team, then it immediately shows that you have leadership skills. Or if you have been a painter, then it shows that you have persistence and you have patience, because that doing that hobby takes time. If you say that I read a lot of books, then I ask them about the books and see if they have curiosity. The other standard question that I always ask, which is also an important way in which I try to measure somebody, is, do you have any questions for me, right? And again, a lot of the times, a lot of people are sort of stumped, but that, for me, it's an important question to ask, to see if they are assertive, right? What kind of questions are they asking? Are they asking me about what will their progress be in this company, right? All of those are important indicators as to how that person is thinking. Most of the times when I ask this question is to, do you have any questions for me? And if somebody is quiet and is not responding, it tells me that that chemistry that I would want from this person is still not there. So there are once you have what attributes you want to, it works like this, right? You first define the attributes that you're seeking for, and then you define questions that you can ask around those attributes, which will help you give a little bit of a perspective inside that. And everything else is a soft skill, right? Like a team player, etc. There's not much that you can do in an interview to assess that, but through the process that we give, onboard them and bring them in, etc., we will know those things. And if it is not a fit, it's not a fit.
Okay.
One of the rules Amazon has, for example, which is it's a cultural thing, but it's a deep, important way in which they hire, is they'll always try to hire somebody who is one level better than you, right? And it creates an immense culture of competition within the teams, right? So if you are, let's say, Anna University graduate with whatever skills, they will ask you to hire an IIT graduate, right? And then by nature of you hiring an IIT graduate, two things happen. One, you have to allow this guy to shine. And once that guy shines, your junior, you as yourself are forced to also evolve, right? And that brings a very interesting dynamic in the organization. And they have another cultural thing, which has a lot of flack, and a lot of people had opposed it. But at the end of every year, they create a a bell curve of low performers, and they just cut it. They just fire those people ruthlessly. So
Oh,
Also, one more question I had. Um, since your business is about web development and app development,
yeah,
what do you think the of building apps and programs on blockchain? I mean, because blockchain has it's like very much secure.
yeah.
So
So one of the philosophies, it's a good direction to think about. And I'll give you a personal story. So when I was in sixth standard, um, my I had an uncle who used to work in Microsoft, and I was very excited to meet him. So, and I was also very, I used to like coding, so I wanted to impress him, and I wanted to show off to him. So he came, Ghare Jamba, and after after lunch, I was just bursting to I was bursting to ask him questions, right? So he's such a big engineer. So we sat on the sofa afterwards, and I was like, "Do you know the syntax of this? Do you know the syntax of that?" And a lot of the framework or language related questions. I'll get to your point in a bit. So I asked him a lot of these things, and he said, "I don't know." But he also said that, look, there is something called a syntax finder in C. I can go find these syntaxes. But what can you do with these language that you know? Is He asked me, and he gave me a simple question saying, "Do you know? Can you write a program to reverse a string?" Right? If I say and, can you say TNA? Your program can print it back. And for all the syntax that I knew, all the language that I knew, I did not know how to write the program. And ever since then, it's a philosophy that we have adopted. And if you go to our website, also we have written that being a technology company, we have said technology comes last. So although blockchain, yes, is a great technology, and it's going to change a lot of things, like most things that have come before, right? Like be it internet, be it app development, web development, whatever. The real question that I think you should think about is, what can I do with blockchain, and what industry am I looking to disrupt with blockchain, rather than just being very obsessed about blockchain by itself. Unless, say again, all of what I'm saying is from a perspective of being one day being a business owner. If you want to become an employee and a developer for somebody, sure, go learn blockchain. But my
thank you for calling Pacific
recommendation,
Interpreter. This is Murtaza, ID 357324. I'll be your Urdu interpreter today. This call may be monitored for training and quality assurance purposes. Are you calling from the main hospital or the FPA?
sorry.
Thank you so much, ma'am. May I have your employee number?
So Khuzema, sorry, there was some disturbance. Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, Hussein, I hope that's what I was trying to say to you, which is, if you're looking from a developer perspective, yes, to become an employee and a developer, yes, blockchain, lots of potential. But if you're looking from a, hey, I want to be the next Facebook, think about what you can do with blockchain.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely.
We are pressing on time, so we'll just take the last question now.
How can one try to read a person's mind and character while hiring / taking interviews? It's an interesting thing, because you do want to understand those things, right? So it's about it's a lot about, as I said, body language. It's a lot of subtle cues that you can get. For example, if I'm taking an interview, for example, and somebody is 5 minutes late to that call, or they come in and they don't have, they like, I forgot my resume. All of these are cues. It could be their bad luck, right? Of course, it could be their bad luck that they did it. But to an interviewer who's going to evaluate hundreds of people, all of those are cues that you take. And a lot of these cues you will actually take in a very subtle way, especially body language. Right? For example, the way I'm sitting right now, with my arms closed, is a body language of being, the person is being very defensive, um, versus somebody sitting with both arms on the table like this is being very aggressive. So there are lots of cues that you can do, think about like that. there's a framework that we follow called the STAR framework, which is situation, tactic, action, and result, right? So you give them a situation. For example, you could be like, hey, Yusuf, you are stuck in the rain and you need to get this material from point A to point B immediately. You're not able to reach me, so you cannot ask me what will you do in this particular time, right? And you give them a situation and you ask them what tactic they would use, what action they took, what strategy first they thought of, what action did they take, and what was the end result. So it's a very popular framework people use, which is called the STAR framework. You can also ask them about a situation in their existing, if they're coming from somewhere else. You can ask them that in your existing job, can you tell me a situation where you were able to showcase courage, or you were able to showcase curiosity, right? So those are sort of ways in which frameworks in which you can try to evaluate somebody's other skills, not just engineering or technical skills. I hope that answered your question.
Khuzema, we'll
Yeah.
just
Hi,
take
Khuzema.
a last question from Abbas. Okay.
Okay.
Hi, Khuzem bhai. Just out of curiosity, wanted to ask, like, what are the changes you have implemented in your recruiting process, for such kind of success?
Okay, so first it started from the point of what I was willing. I'll be very candid. First, it started from the point of what I'm willing to pay to hire somebody. It was, as I said, it was a very big decision to be saying that I will pay only 8,000 rupees versus having the courage to hire somebody who is 40,000 rupees, and having the courage to have the belief that it will work out. That was one. Secondly, I think it used to be we didn't have this documentation to force you to, or whoever is wanting to hire, to write down clearly what this person that you're wanting to hire will do, right? And I think that is important for both the person who's hiring as well as the person you hire, that they know clearly what their job is. That was something that we implemented. The way in which we take our interviews, forcing info, making sure that we get them to do a particular task. If you're a marketing person or whoever be, we ask them to do a particular task, is one. Then we also try to do multiple rounds of interview. Between there is a hierarchy. The HR will do it, then the manager will do it, and then I do it. So that's the typical process that we follow. On the other side, what we're trying to do now is we're also looking to have a very active internship program where people can come and learn and build things, and then in the course of the 3 to 6 months, they're able to learn things, but we are also able to see if they're a cultural fit. They are able to work in the style that we do, and then are able to absorb them. So yeah, these are the things that I think the key change I would say is that we are more organized in the way we approach hiring now, and a little bit more open to taking a risk.
Khuzema bhai, thank you very much for this wonderful presentation. You were insightful. It was very relevant, and people like me who are into service sector and have just started, it was very relevant, and we have good idea how to scale up a business and whom to recruit. Also, the best quote which I've seen today is, "The future belongs to those who see possibilities before they become obvious." Khuzema bhai, also a request on behalf of we, the HSB members and the young minds who are present today. It would be very good if you could actually come on board of HSB and mentor young minds in your field, because we have come to know today that there is no other best person to like mentor people in your website designing field, Khuzema bhai. A special request from Fakhruddin Bhai also, like if you also contribute like very often in such webinars on behalf of HSB, we would be very grateful, Khuzema Bhai. Thank you once again, Khuzema Bhai, on behalf of the audience, and we would also like to thank our audience for coming up, and without audience, no good speaker can ever present.
Yeah.
So we would like to end this seminar as our customary practice. We would like to pray that like we pray to God that He grants a long and healthy life to our His Holiness Dr. Sayyidna Mufaddal Saifuddin, and help us to learn and achieve great things in His Thanda Saya, and may God grant him long and healthy life till the day of judgment. Ameen. Thank you very much once again for being present, and we hope we have such great sessions in future. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Khuzema Bhai.
Absolutely. My pleasure. All the best, guys.
Bye bye.
Thank you.